And
I'm surprised Russell hasn't gotten a hold of you guys. Maybe he's shoveling snow off his roof or something.
There's no power.
Your call is completed. Long distance charges may apply.
oh, his phone's down, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Melanie,
Yes.
Angela suggested that Marie Lou be available. Angela might not be able to because she's got meetings, back-to-back meetings all day, but
Hi, this is Russell. I'm not available right at the moment. Leave me a message and I'll get right back to you. Thanks.
After leaving a message, you can hang up or press pound for more options.
Hey, Russ, give me a call. Well, his cell phone's operating, but it just goes to voicemail, doesn't it? So, I don't know.
Marie Lou would be fine.
okay, great. I'll pass that along. Just waiting for confirmation that we are live on the website.
Okay, so when we get to the special staff report, I'll just make a motion that we accept it.
Yes,
M
exactly.
192. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll just read the statement quickly since we're waiting. The meeting of the committee is being held virtually with all meeting participants attending via electronic communications in order to adhere to the provincial health officer's orders respecting physical distancing requirements as a measure to prevent the transmission of COVID-19. Directors will be involved in and participate in the meeting. For the closed portion of the meeting, directors confirm that they are alone and that the meeting can only be heard and seen by them. If available, directors will wear headphones for the closed portion of the meeting. Directors are to identify themselves when advising the chair that they wish to be placed on the speakers list. This will be done by raising their hands. The chair will record the order in which the hands are raised and will allow the directors to speak in the order in which they are recorded. If directors are unable to raise their hands due to being in audio mode, they will verbally advise the chair of their intention to speak. Directors will mute their device unless they wish to speak. The chair may also choose to mute the microphones, and the directors may unmute the microphones on their own accord when required. With respect to a vote, directors are only required to state a nay vote. Directors are not required to voice a yay vote. Directors attending the meeting are required to verbally advise the chair of when they leave the meeting and return to the meeting so that this can be recorded in the minutes. For clarity, if a director does not verbally advise the chair but is observed to be absent from their video feed and their video feed remains turned on and it is unclear to staff whether they are present in the meeting, the director will be marked absent until such time as staff observes the director to reappear in the video feed. Directors will text message the CAO if they have a technical difficulty. If directors are unable to text the CAO, the directors will email the chair. If a technical difficulty occurs and it becomes apparent that a director has become disconnected from the meeting will be recessed until the connection status of the director has been determined, at which time the meeting will be reconvened with or without the director present, provided the meeting's quorum is maintained. Directors who declare a conflict of interest in respect of an item will be directed to the virtual waiting room while the board considers the agenda item. Once the board completes its consideration of such agenda item, the director will be readmitted. Directors who are present within the virtual waiting room are asked to stay at their computer or otherwise remain present and connected to their computer if possible for the entire duration of their time in the waiting room so as not to miss their readmittance. If possible, the chat functionality of the application will be disabled. And if it is not possible to be disabled, directors will not use this chat functionality during the meeting. Thank you. We are live. We are on the website and we can start. Thank you.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. We would like to recognize that collectively we are on unceded territories of the First Nations within our regional boundaries. Approval of agenda. Vivian, and seconded by Tony. Special staff report. I'd like to make a motion that M192 EAD January be adopted. Seconded by Vivian. The consent agenda, are there any of the agenda items that you'd like to remove?
Sorry, Chair. Just if you can just call the question.
Okay.
Motion passes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
Call a question on the request for decision resolution required pursuant to Minister Order M192. Hearing none. It's approved. Consent agenda. Are there any of the items, agenda items that you'd like to remove? Hearing none. Like a motion to accept.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. We just lost Director Rainbow.
Okay.
So we will recess.
Let's take 5 minutes. I actually was going to make a motion. We approve the consent agenda, Sal. I never do that. I always want to pull something.
I was looking at you.
It's funny on Zoom, you can't tell that, right? And I might as well say at 10:30, I might ask for 10 minutes. I just have to do a family thing for 5. I'll remind you at the time.
Melanie, I wonder if you can phone Tony and see if he's got issues.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, welcome back, Tony.
Yeah, sorry about that. I have no idea what happened. I had to shut down my whole system and start again. And as a result, I don't have the agenda in front of me anymore.
Welcome back.
So you'll have to just tell me what's going on.
Okay, we'll go back to the item number 4 on the agenda, the consent agenda.
Yep.
Are there
okay.
any of the agenda items that anybody would like to move? Hearing none, can we make a motion to accept?
Moved.
Move the consent agenda, please.
Moved by Vivian, seconded by Tony. Any questions? Hearing none, carried. Item number 5, is there any business arising from the minutes? Hearing none, we'll move to number 6, agenda item number 6, staff reports and other businesses. CAO verbal report.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing to report today.
Thank you. 6.2, request for decision improving radio communications infrastructure. Do we have somebody that wanted to speak to that?
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Morgan is not joining us today to speak to her report, but if there were any questions that any of you had, I will do my best to answer them.
Vivian?
It's more of a process question. I'm surprised to see this here. We already have obviously a service establishment with the Britannia Beach Volunteer Fire Department, right? Is that correct? I'm thinking CAO Helmer, of course, some concerns about the loss of a communication tower up at Pavilion and some of the complaints around that. I didn't sort of realize that we were in the business of radio repeaters. And so I thought, why is this so specific? This should just sort of fall under what the Britannia Beach Volunteer Fire Department is doing. I don't understand why it's a sort of separate entry on our agenda for approval. Do you understand my question?
Through the chair. So we do have a service area for providing fire protection services up in that area. And what we've had in place is not providing adequate levels of radio in order to provide the emergency response that we are providing in that area. And this is a service that we actually provide. It's not a contribution service, which would differentiate it from the other one. This is one we're responsible for delivering.
Got it.
And so this would be a new form of radio that we would need in order to ensure the reliability of that communication for providing the service to protect the area. Does that answer it?
It does answer it by virtue of the fact that the SLRD is responsible for providing the service versus running it through another organization that's responsible. That I didn't appreciate that. Thank you. I can move this then, please.
Yeah, I've still got a comment also. Just curious, are there any other organizations that will be beneficial to this VHF, or is it just specifically for the Britannia Beach Fire Department? Tony?
Yeah, I haven't talked to Sarah about this, but I was talking to the fire chief a couple of weeks ago. And I think a couple of things. Anvil Island is not within the SLRD, so we're looking at an installation which is outside of our region. Britannia Beach Fire Department operational budget, you'll see that the $375 per month is coming directly from that. So there's no question about where the money comes from. I think it's more when it's, or if we go ahead with it, we'll be linked in with be able to communicate with the Lions Bay Fire Department as well, because I think the initial installation there was theirs. It's not a new thing that Britannia Beach Fire Department wants to install on an island outside of the SLRD. It's getting into an agreement with the people that own that, which may be the Lions Bay Fire Department. I'm not quite sure. So really, I think the reason it's on here is that we're looking at an agreement with some people outside of our region. Is that correct, Melanie, or am I offline there? The money's not.
So through the chair, so that is part of it. It's setting something new up under that service. So this would be a new agreement to us, to a change from how we were handling our radios before, that requires a new agreement to be located on Anvil Island. And what was the other question that the chair had that we needed to respond to still?
Were there other organizations that will benefit from it? And
okay. No, this is intended for the fire department.
So they'll have their own channel?
That's right.
Okay. Any further discussion? Can we have a motion?
Yeah, moved.
Moved by Tony, seconded by Vivian. Item 6.3, 2021-2025 draft budget.
Sorry to interrupt, Chair. If you can just call the question.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Call the question on 6.2. Hearing none, carried. 6.3, 2021-2025 draft budgets. Do we have somebody to speak to it?
Yes, we do, Chair.
Suzanne?
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Are there any questions for Suzanne?
Suzanne, in our closed meeting, we're going to be talking about bylaw enforcement, and that could have budget implications. Where I wasn't sure where in here the salary for the bylaw officer was.
So that's under the regional planning cost center. So that's 1,200 planning is where Lee's salary is right now.
Ah, okay. So no, we won't be really talking about that today then, within this budget.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Where are we?
Thank you for removing the Texas Creek Park as an item.
Okay, well, Tony looks at it. I've got a couple of questions. On 2021, you've got an additional building clerk for 6 months added into 2021. It's not another full-time position, or is it just a temporary for 6 months?
The request would be for a full-time position, but just to start, like, so this current 2021 budget would just show 6 months of that position. And Kim might be able to speak more to what the plan was directly on that hire.
Yes, it's really succession planning for the department. We have staff in the department who are nearing retirement. And so we're looking at cross-training and bringing new staff in to train under some of the staff who have a wealth of knowledge that we don't want to see lost.
Well, that's great.
When you said cross-training, I had images of a gym and people.
That would be nice.
Yeah,
We missed that in the renovation.
we did.
I fully support that initiative with the in-house training. Another question I have is building inspections number 1400 on the Tempest installation. How much is left to pay, or is this an ongoing project?
So this is just the final amount for the building inspection service. What we decided to bill them for was just the Prospero portion of the implementation, which is specific to building permits. So in 2020, we budgeted in 2 different areas, in software and in support. And then 2021, I just carried forward the remainder in software. So the remainder, as shown, will be the last charge for that.
Okay, thank you.
31,297.
Thank you.
And sorry, 50% of that Prospero building permits was charged to general government. So it was just split 50-50.
Suzanne, what are our plans going forward with the major developments that are on the table for the southern part of Area D? It seems to me we'll require a lot more time from building inspection. Maybe not this year, but certainly somewhere in the future. How will we deal with that?
I'll relay that to Kim. I'm not sure if we've thought the next year's through, but I'll leave that to Kim.
Yeah, so we anticipate that there may be shovels in the ground, probably more likely towards the end of 2022 at Furry Creek, at which time we will probably need to hire another building inspector full-time. But I think we can save that decision for a couple of years. We will be having a lot of construction at Britannia Beach, possibly this coming summer. And so we feel that our current bylaw services should be able to handle that. If we're finding that we can't keep up with inspections, we'll be needing to hire another inspector. We do have a part-time inspector right now. He may be willing to give us a bit more time in terms of actually doing some of the site inspections.
Okay. Thank you.
Vivian?
I'm curious about the elections, UBCM. Obviously, we saved a considerable amount of money this year by everyone attending them remotely. And I would expect it will be the same or possibly an option for some of us in 2021. And I'm wondering at some point, like all of these monies that we're saving from not traveling during COVID, are we going to get some, I mean, are we getting ahead at all in these budgets with some of those savings overall?
Yeah, a lot of the budgets had really minor travel expenses. The elections UBCM budget, because we had that extra Area A election, we didn't see any benefit because there was the extra expenses in there. So the requisition is increased to try to replenish those reserve funds for the 2022 election. So there is potential that the 2020 to requisition as listed in the 5-year plan will be reduced if there is the virtual UBCM in 2021, because right now that 2021 UBCM is expensed as if it will be in Vancouver. So,
Yeah.
and then that would carry forward and reduce that requisition needed for 2022.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, I have one more question. Emergency planning number 1761. Looks like you'd like to balance. Wishes to meet the recommended balance. The requisition would need to be increased by $6,000. And you've asked us the question, would we like to take it from the general select funds? And that back in 2016, it included a transfer of $47,000 from the general select for fire services. So I personally am in agreement for it. Will we need to make a motion to that effect? Melanie? It's emergency
Thank
planning.
you, Chair. I think Suzanne is willing to make the changes that you want. But if you would like to make a motion, and she can ensure that it's incorporated into the next draft of the budget either way.
Yeah, I'll just want to clarify something. So the need for the $6,000 was to bring the reserve budget up to the reserve guidelines policy, which is 2 months of operating. So that's not required. It's just letting the board know that it's not at the reserve guidelines, but that we can still keep it as is. There is the option to increase it by the $6,000 if we wanted to meet those guidelines. The other portion was the general select transfer. And just as an information, because there was general select used in the past, so that is an option if you wanted to reduce the requisition and use some general select funds, which would require a board resolution.
Okay, I've got a question for you on that 47,000. When it was done, was it done proportionally to the 4 areas?
No, it was just to general select, which is a regional budget. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think, Vivian and Tony?
So if I can just get that straight in my mind, Suzanne, if we wanted to, we could do nothing and leave the reserve slightly lower than our guidelines state, or we can increase the requisition to raise that extra 6,000, or we can leave the requisition alone and take the money from general select.
yeah, that's correct. And also for any other purpose, like not just the reserve to meet the guidelines, you could take some from general select just for emergency planning for their operations. And because general select hasn't really been utilized for a while, it could be a way that, because it's a regional service and all of the EAs pay into it, that you could use those general select funds.
Vivian?
That makes really good sense to me, and I think it's a good use of the general select. As you know, I was casting around for what we were going to use that budget for, and we put some towards food banks a couple months ago. I think this is a good use as well. I'm happy to make a motion to that effect.
Okay. So the motion, is there a seconder?
Well, and how much would you want to place into the budget?
What you've requested there, $6,118. So maybe Vivian, you could restate your motion.
Yes, and it would be helpful to me if we had references for page numbers that we're looking at as we're going through, because I'm scrolling up and down in this. Are we on emergency planning 1761? Is that? I'm
What
having
line- Yeah,
two
what line
screens here.
number, Suzanne?
I can't.
I think it's
PDF,
page 59 of your agenda potentially.
Now,
158, where
Doesn't
emergency
go on.
planning is.
I'm not working in the PDF agenda. I'm working in the other one. So
In the HTML, it looks like it's page 15 if you want the budget page.
thank you very much.
unfortunately, I've downloaded it and I've highlighted what I want to talk about.
Usually I do that too. And some of the pages I printed because I was just needing to get my little Leica glass so I could see what the numbers were. But I didn't print this page. I did read it and I thought it was not a bad idea. Okay, so now I'm on page 15 for the emergency and disaster planning and management for electorals area A, B, C, and D. But I don't see the recommendation on this.
What's the line number for that item, Suzanne?
I think everybody's confusing me quite a lot. So if you just go to the notes at page 2 of the agenda package, that's where I discuss using the general select under emergency planning.
Just if I could, for clarity, Suzanne mentioned two things. She mentioned the reserve funds, which was $6,000, but she also discussed the potential that you could reduce the impact to taxation, which was the page 15 piece, because there is an increase in the mill rate from 0.0742 to 0.0833, which to gather an extra roughly $30,000 in 2021. So there's an option that instead of increasing taxation, you could use a portion of that general select to reduce the impact to taxation. And so for your consideration would be both the reserve fund and the tax increase as to what amount you might like to allocate for either or both of those items.
Okay. I've just read that page 2 stuff, Suzanne. So, do we have a motion, or do you need one, or?
I think Chair DeMare was asking me to be more specific in the motion that I made, which was that we could transfer 6,118 from our general select to, what's the correct wording?
To the reserve.
Reserve.
To increase the emergency planning reserve to the recommended
61. And yeah, sorry to be so slow on getting this together. There it is. Okay.
Okay, I'll second that.
Call the question. Opposed? Carried. So to what Melanie was just talking about was that we could also reduce the requisition increase through the general select funds. And Suzanne, how much did you have to increase it this year?
It was, let me just get to that page. Sorry about that. It was about 29,000 and some change. So you don't have to do the full amount, obviously. It could be any, just get the exact amount. Didn't work.
While she's doing that, if I may, I would, you might want to take a look at the 2022 and subsequent years as well, because they're going to be continuing, or they're expected to continue at a similar level of need. And so if you were looking to do something, you might want to make it a moderation of the tax increase rather than doing the whole thing, just for your consideration.
Yeah.
Well, it's a 28,922 increase from the 2020 requisition level. So 28,900 is the, so you could do just 20,000 or any kind of funding that you deem would be good. There's about 67,000 or 61,000 left in general select currently.
Vivian?
I'm just wanting to make the observation that we're talking about the money coming from payment in lieu of taxes from the northern hydro projects. And there's already like a considerable chunk of that money. I think it's about 35% of that isn't that not already going towards planning? And it's a very small percent that's going to this general select fund. So we're taking from this smaller percentage and putting it over into that other budget. Is that what we're doing here? I just want to make sure I'm following the movement of the money.
So yeah, the general select gets about $10,000 a year from the BC Hydro PILT as per the policy. And that would be moving to the emergency planning budget, which is an EAD budget. So same, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, it's an EAD budget. Thank you.
Yeah, we still, we've requested staff to look into the feasibility of the video, and we still haven't got a reply yet. And I know the situation with the staff. So that's another item that we could use this fund for. So what does everybody think about putting $10,000 into the to reduce the requisition increase from general select?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, so I'll make the motion that we take $10,000 from the general select fund and use it to reduce the requisition increase for 2021 on emergency planning.
Okay, I'll second that.
Call a question. Any opposed? Carried. That's all the questions I have. So do we have to make a, just for that 6.3, the draft budgets that it's received?
Yeah, I recommend just receiving them versus approving them at this point, because they're still apt to change because the 2020 forecasted figures are not final.
I'll make a motion that it's the 2021-2025 draft budgets be received. Seconded by Vivian. Questions? Opposed? Carried. 6.4, December 2020 Select Funds Report. Any questions on it? Vivian?
Thank you. May I ask about Cost Center 2902 Area B Select? I see an entry for cutting edge signs for $1,965.59. And I thought that should be billed under the Portal Fund, Area B in General Select. Is that just a matter of moving those? I hope that's the end of the charges for that particular item. And there is enough in the budget, the portal budget in Area B to cover that. I think that should be moved over there.
Well, there was two different resolutions. It looks like there was the September resolution to use the Area B portal funds, September EAD up to 1,500 plus staff time. And then this resolution looks like it was from October EAD. And it states that up to 2,000 towards installation and material costs for refurbishing the existing Area B portal signs. So it looks like there's two separate resolutions there with different funding pocket recommendations. So if you wanted to move it to general select, we would just have to change that October resolution.
So I should have been specific about that fund in the resolution, it sounds like, and I wasn't. So I have to make a different resolution to fix that, to have that money moved. Yep, I'm seeing. CAO.
Yes, can you please rescind the original one and do a new one, the same wording, but specifically identifying the pocket you would like used?
Thank you.
So Vivian, are you going to make the rescind motion?
May I do that right now?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Okay. You'll have to help me with this then to rescind the motion of, what is the date, Suzanne? The October EAD? Taking
October 14th.
from the October 14th. So to rescind that motion and instead request that the funding for this come out of the portal budget, general select, Area B. Does that cover that properly?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
It's up to 2,000 towards the installation of the sign.
Excellent. So $1,965.59 is just about right.
Okay, do we have a seconder? I'll second it.
So, sorry, just to pop in. So you're, just for clarity, Director Birch Jones, you're preserving the up to $2,200 wording from the previous resolution? The previous resolution was that up to 2,200 be allocated from Electoral Area B select funds. Cost centered 2902 towards installation and material costs for refurbishing the existing Area B portal signs. So do you just want to swap out the cost center 2902 to 2,900?
That works, doesn't it? And I really don't believe there's any other costs that are going to come in around that at this point.
Okay, I'll second it.
With that amendment. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
with the amendment. Call the question. Opposed? Carried. Was there any more? Vivian? Any more questions?
Oh, thank you. Chair
Don't-
Salzman.
Tony, did you have any on
Oh,
yours?
I'm fine with mine, thank you.
I'm fine with mine also. Oh, geez, just give me a sec. I got to get the EAD meeting back. A motion to receive the EAD select services,
Moved.
moved by Tony, seconded by Vivian. Community Works Built Amenities Fund balances.
Sorry, Chair, just if you could call the question
Oh, sorry.
on that receipt. Thank you.
Call the question. Opposed? Carried. I'll get better.
Don't worry about it.
Any questions on the Community Works Fund?
Yeah, I need a better pair of glasses. This is there's a ton of figures in here. I think it's okay, though.
I'm fine.
Still got lots.
Vivian, go ahead.
These are really difficult to look at, you know, but I don't think Suzanne has leisure time to be rearranging the formatting. So we'll live with it, or I'm learning to see it. When I look at funds received under Northern Pilt Increase Reserve Area B, the jump when we made a change in the Pilt policy was obviously 2015, 2016, right? And if I'm reading across the line, what is coming in 2021 for Area B, Suzanne, is 123,800. Is that right?
Yeah, 123 and 890, yes.
Okay, I'm not seeing all those little numbers, but yes. And then when I go down this estimated balance, December 31st, 2020, and I see the Bear Creek berm restoration and the Bear Creek berm risk assessment, those are things that happened previous to me being the director, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
So
then,
the years, I've just kept all of the years since this reserve was created, which was 2014. So you see what was spent even before you were part of the EAD committee. Yeah.
and so things like the motion made a couple of years ago, the Seton Valley Volunteer Fire Department personal protective equipment, that some of those things that are in transition, that money is sitting there allocated, but there's an amalgamation going on between that unit and Shalath. So it's just going to sit there until I make a change to it. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you could change that resolution if you'd like. There was discussion about using those funds for operations because we've had to contract Shalath to do the work, but it was already, the funds from 2019 were already sent to Seton at that point. So there is a deficit for that service. So there is potential that maybe we could even split that 30,000 into supporting the Seton operations and also for the breathing apparatus. That's always the PPE, I called it. So that's always the option to divide up 30,000.
Which would be fine with me, by the way. And I realize it's another discussion and that's evolving, but okay, thank you.
Susanna, I do have a question. So for 2021, have we received the funds already?
No, we typically don't receive the BC Hydro PILT funds, I think until July or August.
Okay, so the question is then, late last year, I put in the 50,000 for the Braylorn sewer. This month, I'm going to put in for another 50,000. How is that going to work if we don't have the funds in there yet?
We still can enter it as a commitment, and then I can enter it into the budget, but obviously the funds aren't in place until middle of the year, but we can still move on them, because what typically happens with the SLRD is, since we don't get any requisition funding from the province or the municipalities until August, and most of the funding for the year, like example, the BC Hydro PILT doesn't come until the middle of the year, we use our operating investments. So I invest everything for our reserve funds into the MFA. So I pull from that during the year. And then when I get all of my funding in August or July, I refund everything. But I also make sure that I allocate the appropriate interest based on what those reserve balances are, not what was in the investments. So they still receive their proper interest allocation. But we do pull throughout the year from the investments and then replenish them when we get funding.
Okay, so that's good to know. So the tax requisition that will go out to the Braylorn residents that are on the Braylorn sewer will have that $100,000 taken off the loan, correct? For this year.
Yeah, as with the resolutions that are going to be in place, yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Vivian?
I was going to move receipt of the PILT report.
Thank you. Seconded by Tony. Call the question. Opposed? Carried. Director's report, Wild Safe Coordinator.
Oh.
There was no attachment, so yeah, go ahead, Tony. Tony?
Could I just ask Suzanne a question? Are you leaving, Suzanne? Because I just have one quick question.
I think I'm done, but sure, I definitely can answer any questions.
Well, I just had this one about that I've had this agenda because we approved in the previous year the high school scholarships that I was applying for. So my question to you is, do you know where to send send the money? Or I think I had the, so I just wanted to make sure that got to you.
Let's connect offline, because
Yeah.
I'm not privy to that resolution. Is it a new resolution?
Fair enough.
Okay, but yeah, I definitely will have to
listen.
find out where to send the funding for those scholarships. So we'll discuss that.
Okay, I'll give you a call.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay, we never did get an attachment for discussion on the Wild Safe Coordinator. So maybe Mary Lou, welcome Mary Lou. You could speak to it for us?
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. So the grant is open until February 12th. So the idea will be to apply for the grant again for 2021, keep the same budget as 2020. We have hours left from 2020 program that we can use and forward to 2021. So obviously 2020 was a very specific year and very unusual, especially for outreach. But the idea is to keep the same program, hopefully get a grant again this year, and extend the program all over the region. And those extra hours that we have from 2020 and will be using in 2021 will be very helpful for that.
Tony?
Yeah, Mary Lou, hi, good morning. I think I've said to you before that I really appreciated the work that that was done in this program this year. I think Devin did an excellent job. So my question is, would we be able to keep him for next year, or would we be looking at a different person?
We are very hopeful to be able to keep him. Obviously, it's up to him to apply again as a YCBC coordinator, but I know he really appreciated, he really liked the work. He has the knowledge now of the SRD as well as better knowledge of YCBC. So I'm very hopeful that it will be the same coordinator this year for the regional district.
Well, I'd just like to say I would definitely recommend him. So, and I hope he returns.
Thanks.
Vivian?
Just move that that we make that application as recommended by Mary Lou, and thank you.
Thank you.
Funding, very good program.
I'll second it. It's very
I'll
good.
vote for it.
Very good program. So so moved by Vivian, seconded by Sal. Call the question. Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Mary Lou. These next two items, we don't have a quorum, so we'll have to defer them. 8.1 and 8.2.
Is that going to cause any kind of a problem, Sal, to defer them to next month?
It will. I'll talk to Melanie about it. Maybe we can
I'm
have
just
a
wondering
special
if
meeting.
I'd be in favor of that, given the circumstances today, if we can, rather than have to wait a full month. It's easy enough to do with Zoom. I mean, it's not as though we've got to drive in.
Would it work for all of you if we did that on board day? Would that work timing wise, Tony? Sorry, I mean, Director, Chair Demare?
That's next week, is it? Or two
Two more weeks. Yes, I think we can wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
do you need a motion to that effect, that we defer these until, okay, I'll move that we defer these two items and deal with them on the same day as our board meeting.
We'd also need a motion to have the special meeting and to waive the notice.
Can I do that all in one go? All in one motion, or do you need more than one motion?
Maybe we could break that into two.
Okay.
So perhaps the motion for the special meeting first, and then a motion to defer those items to that meeting.
Okay. All right, I'll move that we have a special meeting to deal with the.
You're breaking up, Tony.
I'm moving that we have a special meeting to deal with items 8.1.
Still broken up.
maybe I'll pick that up.
Okay, Vivian will do it. Go ahead.
A motion that we have a special meeting to deal with items 8.1 and 8.2. And Kristen, you'd like a separate motion to?
So the date of the meeting will be January 29th and, sorry, January 27th. And would you like to have that meeting after the hospital district meeting, or how would you like to?
Could we plan it at 8:45 a.m. before our 9 a.m. start with the board, the full board? Have a short EAD previous? Or after the hospital meeting, whatever's best for staff, I think is most important.
I would say then, perhaps 8:15 because, yeah, perhaps 8:15 then.
Okay, to defer 8.1 and 8.2 to a special meeting previous to the board meeting on January 27th and 28th is what I have for our board meetings. January 27th at 8:15 a.m.
And that notice of that special meeting be waived.
And that notice of that special meeting be waived. Does that sound, are you hearing that okay?
Yep.
Can I just have 1 second to check something on that?
Of course. I don't think we need as long as 45 minutes, but we can just
it's just that by 8:35, 8:40, I've opened up the board meeting and dealing with last minute things to get ready for the board.
You're on that. Okay. So I shouldn't say what's best for staff and then quibble with you. 8:15 it is.
So I just didn't want you to think it was a 45-minute meeting. Not at all.
All right. I am trying to be helpful.
I guess I'm just looking because the waiving of this notice, which means that we have to mail notice out to everybody, can be done upon unanimous vote. And my question is whether we have unanimous vote because we don't have the full committee here. That was kind of my question I wanted to look up.
So I think unanimous vote is unanimous for the people who are attending the meeting, would it not be?
Don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
So let's bounce back to just deferring it to the next EAD. Sal, if that's going to be acceptable to the community. I mean, knowing you have our goodwill here.
Yes, that's fine. Let's save it till the next EAD meeting.
In that case, then the motion should be to defer items 8.1 and 8.2 to the next EAD meeting.
Do we have a seconder to that motion? Tony?
Yeah, I'm just trying to see how I was thinking if I lent you $5,000 out of my select funds, but then that would require a vote and then you wouldn't be able to vote on that. So that wouldn't work. So I guess
I'll let them know.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, can you second that, Tony, please?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Okay, call the question. Opposed? Carried. Any decision on additional late business? No. Okay. Late business, director report, service establishment, Lillooet Agricultural Food Society, Director Birch Jones. Did you want to talk to it, please?
Thank you. CAO Helmer did bring to my attention that we had a resolution along similar lines in May 2019. I think that followed a presentation by the Lillooet Agriculture and Food Society to the board. And we talked then and made a resolution about looking into establishing a service or cost center. And it is one in a number of tasks that I'm hoping that we can get to, and I'm really respectful of the fact that we have been short-staffed and circumstances have been challenging, but it's important to me to try to move this along. And for that reason, I'd like to move the resolution as stated with a bit of a timeline on it, which coincides with my term, but to have a service or cost center be established for the Lillooet Agriculture and Food Society, LAFS, and that staff begin the process in 2021 in time for the 2022 budget. That's the motion. Thank you.
Tony?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. This motion,
You're breaking up.
if we pass it, yeah. Can someone how can I get on phone in so that I can use my phone for the sound?
Director Rainbow, do you want to try turning off your camera, your video, to see if that helps?
Does it help?
So
Yep.
far, so good.
Can you hear me? So,
Yes.
my question is should this come from us as a recommendation to the board? Because it is basically asking staff to commit a lot of time. So to get
So you're breaking
onto
up.
the work plan, is that our decision or should? How do I phone in? I need to, and then I can use my phone for the sound.
So perhaps we could recess for a minute and I can send you that information, Director Rainbow.
Yes, let's recess for
Okay.
5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
I'll just step away for a minute, Chair DeMare.
Okay.
Am I looking for a text or an email?
I will email that to you, but it hasn't come yet.
Okay. Okay. So, Kristen, is it one of these phone numbers at the bottom of the previous message you sent me? Can I just phone one of those numbers?
You're muted.
Is there a 778 number
Oh,
there?
no. Yeah,
Okay, yeah. And I'll send you the other information by email right now.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound. Appuyez sur le 0 pour choisir français.
Mute yourself, Tony. Please, thank you. Hi, Tony.
hello.
Mute yourself on your Zoom. Okay, much better. Tony, could you turn your volume down on your computer?
How's that?
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, we've got that. Oh,
So we'll just wait for Director Birch Jones to return.
okay.
Okay, meeting's back in order. Go ahead, Tony.
Go ahead. What was I talking about?
You mentioned that the resolution around establishing a service area for Lillooet agriculture and food would require staff time.
I was asking that question. What do staff think? What do you think, Melody?
Through the chair, this is one of a number of other service establishment priorities that we're hoping to include in the upcoming meetings for discussion by the board and prioritization. The one thing I would mention, though, is we have applied for an NDIT internship grant, and if successful, this is one of the items we were going to give to that individual, and that would move forward basically all those northern items that have been waiting for their turn.
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, I have no problem.
Oh, you're still breaking up, Tony.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Oh. Oh. I'll
And
move
who's the
somewhere
other
else.
number popping up here?
Okay, we'll
That's
give you,
me. Well, is this any better?
yeah, so far.
Well, there we go.
You're breaking up there.
Oh dear. Beginning a tour of my house.
With a lot of nice artwork going by.
Oh, here's progress. Now I'm up near the modem now. So, is this better?
Yeah, so far.
Oh,
Try it.
good. So, I was in the process of saying I don't have any issue at all with the proposal.
Uh, you're broken again, unfortunately.
I don't know what to do.
I'm curious about the 604 number that's popping up on the screen. If I can just interrupt, Chair Demare.
That's me.
That's Tony.
I've got my computer muted and the sound completely off. And I'm hooked.
Seems a bit better right now.
Go ahead and try to say your what you want to say there, Tony.
Oh, I'm absolutely fine with passing. Will the board want to weigh in on this as we come to, as Melanie was saying, there's some prioritization to be done. So how do we phrase that? How do we do it so that we don't run into I can hear everything I'm saying, by the way.
Yeah, you're broken up. So what you're saying is, how can we frame this so that it actually gets done? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
To the board.
Yeah.
So, Vivian, you were going to say something?
Well, just partially, that's why I put the timeline on it. And I did that with the full appreciation that we have 2 strategic planning sessions coming up in January, and that intern position is out there. I mean, fingers crossed that we're funded for that. I mean, we can only do the best we can do. This resolution is just expressing the intent of what I would like to be done.
Yeah. Just looking at the reply we got back from Patricia, that position will be, we'll know by the 15th. Am I correct, Melanie? And then the next piece of it is somebody has to apply for it.
That's correct. There have to be sufficient applicants, and then the position doesn't start till May. There is quite a tight timeline. It takes a long time to do service establishment and to get the electorate approval and to do all of those steps. So I think that saying it has to be done in time for the 2022 budget means it would have to be done if we need electorate approval before October, because October is the cutoff for assessment purposes. So from a staff perspective, my thought would be, if you guys could, if we're in agreement that this is a priority to the EAD, that if you were to state that we'd like this particular service establishment to be considered as a one of the top priorities for service establishment or something along that line, rather than that, because if you say it has to be done by then, that means we have to drop other things now so we can start this. So from a staff perspective, I think that would give the urgency that you would like reflected while still enabling us to work with what maybe practical timeline constraints for your consideration.
I've also got, just save that thought. I've got a question also. I was thinking about this one here, tax service. So that everybody in electoral area B would have to pay into it, whether they were working on agricultural land or just recreationalists that have recreational properties. Am I correct with that? That everybody in that area would have input into it, I guess, through that process, but everybody would have to pay into it. Okay. Because, you know, we do have something similar with our park service that also needs to get looked at. That's been on the books for a while also. So yeah, go ahead, Kristen.
Thanks, Chair. I just also wanted to say that this will be a recommendation to the board. So so that's kind of the timing in terms of that's just the timing. Thanks.
So with all that, Vivian, did you want to change that timeline on yours, or?
Well, you know, I put this forward in May 2019, and I've been looking at things like the aesthetics of retaining walls and, you know, a whole bunch of other things that have like no importance to me in Area B, but this has importance to me in Area B. So I am trying to push it up there. I know we're sort of a small section and a small contributor to the overall SLRD, but this is an important service. And there's a lot of things that I think we're all dropping in respect of the short staff and the COVID situation and all of that. But this is one piece of business that I would like to see moved along. I mean, we can change. So you're asking me to soften the wording in such a way that there's, you know, with some urgency attached, but not a specific timeline. And I'm sure we can do that. And that's probably what the board would like to do. And that's what we'll come up with the strategic planning. I'm just a little worried that it might not get done in the next couple of years. So that's my concern as director for B.
Tony?
So the purpose of this motion is for you to get our support, the EAD support. Asking.
I think that's exactly what we're doing. Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Okay.
So with that, if we leave it the way it is, and if we, you know, once we go through our strategic planning sessions, you know, down the road, it could get amended if needed be. But
I think
go ahead, Vivian.
Just because CAO Melanie is looking rather grim, I'm going to ask you what wording you would like me to put here, and I will do that.
Thank you, through the chair. The only thing I was asking is that that because that would mean that staff would have to commence work immediately in order to ensure that that deadline was met. And I don't think from a practical perspective, given the recent loss of staff as well as the other vacant positions, that just to recognize what Director Birch Jones was saying, the work that was being done on those other land use bylaws are done by completely different staff. And so we couldn't assign those tasks to those other individuals. So the only thing I was recommending is that instead of putting a date, that it be flagged as being a priority or urgent or something like that for the EAD, so that when it gets to the board level, it could be considered in that light. So that it would jump the pile, so to speak, and be high up there, but not that it would redirect other things, which could potentially result in that we can't put aside legislative requirements that we already have that we have to comply with. And that was the concern. So it would just be that small piece.
I understand. Thank you. So that a service or cost center be established for the Lillooet Agriculture and Food Society, and that staff begin the process in 2021, period. No, like with that. So at least there's some initiation optimistically with the intern, but I will remove the in time for the 2022 budget. Thank you. I get a thumbs up from Melanie. May I move that as such? I'll move that, please.
I'll second it. Call the question. Opposed? Carried. So Kristen, do we have to make another motion? This goes to the board?
Goes anyway.
Or it just goes?
No, the motion that you just passed was a recommendation to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Director's notice of, carried. Director's notice of motion? None, hearing none. Number 12, that the committee close the meeting to the public under the authority of section 91A, C, F, and G of the community charter.
I'll move that.
Seconded by Tony. Call the question. Opposed? Carried. So Kristen, you'll take us into the closed?
Yeah, so I'll ask that we recess so that I can take down the live streaming.
Okay,
So 10-minute recess, okay?
10-minute recess. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.